When I joined the United States Army, I didn't train for it. I didn't do anything. I just went for it, all right? I enjoyed my last summer after I graduated high school with my friends and everything, and then went to basic training. I didn't try to get into shape. I didn't try to study on anything. I did nothing. It worked okay for me, but if I would have done some training, I feel it probably would have made it easier for me. And maybe that's the goal you're looking for, is to make it easier for you. That's what I want to help you with. That's what I want to do here. Now, I have kind of covered topics like this before on my channel. There's a couple of videos that I've done that are sort of related to this, but I still have the questions as to what should I do to prepare for the Army? What is your advice? I'm getting ready to join the Army in X amount of months, whatever the case is. What should I do to prepare for that? So I feel like maybe this kind of gives better context. Maybe it's easily searchable to help you kind of find this video better and understand what to do to prepare. Now, the content I make here on this channel is geared towards people who want to learn more about the Army, maybe to join, curiosity, whatever. If that's what you're looking for and you are not subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button, click on that bell so you get alerts as soon as new videos go live, including the live streams, and become a part of that awesome notification platoon. So let me help you. Let me help you decide how you should prepare, how you should train for the United States Army. Start getting up early. That's definitely something I definitely recommend to kind of help you train for the Army. You're gonna be getting up early as hell in the morning, so you might as well start preparing yourself mentally for having to get up early in the morning. How early? I'd say like 5 o'clock maybe, might be a good one to kind of work around. You're not always gonna have to get up that early in the Army. Definitely probably while you're in basic training, that initial training, very unpredictable. There may be some days where you're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, some days where you're getting up 3, 2, whatever. It's very unpredictable. When you get to your actual unit, a little bit varies and you have a little bit more leeway, a little bit more flexibility with how early you might be getting up. So you might as well start conditioning your body to be getting up early in the morning. When you get to your actual unit, 6:30 PT, right? So you're probably getting up maybe, pretty early if you live off base because you're married, you have to drive into work. If you live in the barracks, you don't have to get up as early to make it to formation in time for 6:30. So it really just depends. But a good kind of thing to kind of start working into your schedule is getting up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. But don't just get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to watch TV, play video games. You might as well put it to use. You're gonna get up early, might as well go for a run. Running is a very key thing that you're probably gonna have to do quite a bit in the Army. Whew. How far should you run? I'd say at least strive to make 2 miles. 2 miles is a very good common distance you're gonna have to run. You should not have any instances really very often, if at all, in the Army where you'll be running for less than 2 miles. Hang on, catch my breath a little bit. Whether you're doing that on a treadmill, on the streets, definitely on the streets is a good way because that's how you'll do it in the Army. You'll only really get to do it on the treadmill if you're working out in the gym, but for the most part, you're running on the streets when you're in the Army in formation or whatever the case could possibly be. So definitely work on your run game. You're probably gonna have situations in basic training where you run a lot. When you get to your other unit, your main unit actually, you're gonna probably alternate days where maybe like Monday's a run day, then Wednesday's a run day. And then in between those run days, you're doing like upper body. How fast should you be running? Well, for the most part, first work on making sure that you can run 2 miles, more than 2 miles also as well, but at a minimum that you can run for 2 miles. Once you've got that kind of locked in and narrowed down, then work on your run times. And what I recommend is looking up what the current requirements are for like a 2 mile run, right? I don't know what those run times are off the top of my head. I probably have them on screen maybe right now, but that's what you should probably strive for after you've accomplished the goal of being able to run for 2 miles. Then try to see if you can run 2 miles in under those times. Also factor in there that these are the run times, or those were, they might have gone away, I don't know. But those are the run times that you needed to make after you've done 5 other events. So maybe do a bunch of exercises, a bunch of workouts, get a little bit, kind of exhausted, maybe not completely exhausted, but not like peak position, and then try to make that 2 mile run time. 99, 100. Working out, upper body is definitely a good recommendation. Maybe that can come from doing some weights, but more importantly, probably doing some push-ups. Of course, lifting these gigantic weights is how I end up being so enormously buff. So you can also get this big as Christopher Chaos by doing the Christopher Chaos workout by visiting. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a Christopher Chaos workout. I'm also not very buff. I'm not buff at all. It's probably not word that has come out of anybody's mouth of saying that Christopher Chaos is buff, but you can be if maybe you're doing a lot of push-ups, working out with dumbbells. Whatever the case is, you're gonna have to do a lot of push-ups in basic training. I did not work out prior to going to the Army. I struggled with push-ups because of that when I went to basic training. I had a hell of a time, but I eventually overcame it by getting smoked, by working out, with our company, our platoons, all that stuff. But if you can go into it already being pretty darn good with push-ups, probably a lot easier for you to get through it than I had. I'm gonna go knock out like 1,000 push-ups now real quick. 1,000. Oh man, gotta say, it's definitely a lot harder to do 1,000 push-ups, especially when you had like 300-pound rucksack on your back. Okay, not 300 pounds, fine, you got me. It's probably more like 45 pounds, 35 pounds, something along those lines. But the important thing is having a 45-pound rucksack or going on road marches. Road marches can be a very key thing in the Army. Now, this rucksack is, a really good one. It's actually a Marine one. I just got it because I wanted one that didn't have camouflage pattern on it, so the Marine ones are plain. So I got this guy for I think like 50 bucks from a military surplus store. You could do the same thing, but if you're getting ready to go to basic training like in a month, a couple of months or whatever, probably doesn't make sense for you to go and spend money on a surplus rucksack to train for the Army. It's probably just gonna be a waste. Maybe you use a backpack around the house, maybe you already have something you can use for hiking purposes or whatever, but going on road marches with about 45 pounds or more you should work up to is a good idea. 45 pounds is like the minimum. That's usually what you have commonly in your rucksack in the Army when you go for road marches, and you're gonna do those in basic training. So that's gonna be a very key thing. So people that I see sometimes struggling with the road marches because maybe they don't have experience doing that, their feet hurt, their shoulders hurt, their back hurts or whatever, and they struggle getting through the road march. If you can prepare yourself, condition yourself for what it's going to be like by doing these road marches, 45 pounds or more, then that definitely makes things easier on you. I would definitely say try to strive for higher than 45 pounds, especially because, a good example is like fighters, right? Even though maybe they're gonna be going into a 5-round fight for like MMA, for UFC, right? They probably train for 10 rounds, right? They train for above and beyond. And you should probably try to do the same. Try to train for above and beyond. That way when you do the normal stuff in the Army, it's easy. To an extent, I guess it depends on how hard you trained, how good of shape you end up in, but that's the idea and that's the goal. How far you should go for these road marches? Start off with what you can handle and then eventually try to work that up to higher ones, to something like 12 miles, right? 12 miles is probably one to strive for and above, right? If you can do at least 4, 5, 6, it's a good start, but ideally you want to try to go for 12 or more. Now that's a lot of the physical ways to prepare you for training for the Army, but there's other things like outside of just physical, right? Things that maybe are mental, things that you need to be educated on, especially individuals who want to go like 18 X-ray, maybe option 40, those kind of things. So let me talk about those, but let me get this guy off my back first. Land nav is going to be a big one for those of you looking at 18 X-ray or for Rangers. So you're looking for the option 40. So you're gonna have to go through RASP for Rangers. You're gonna have to go through SFAS if you're doing Special Forces. And there is a land nav course that can kill some people on that kind of part of it because they suck at land nav and they fail it. You'll learn land nav in your initial training, so you'll learn how to do it, but if you can go into that experience without that being the very first time you've ever done land nav or learned how to do land nav, you improve your chances of being successful. I have a video that you can kind of check out, maybe a card popped up on land nav skills, but also resource other kind of places to learn about how to do it, practice actually doing it yourself, maybe challenging without the right equipment and everything like that. But if you're someone who is going to do something like trying to be Special Forces, trying to be in the Rangers, it may be in your best interest to spend that money to get the equipment to properly prepare yourself so you're not one of those people that failed because you couldn't pass land nav. If you have never fired a weapon before, probably a good idea to at least get some practice. Learn some of the fundamentals. Go out with someone who has experience firing weapons. Learn how to do it. It doesn't necessarily have to be like with an AR-15. It could be just with a simple rifle, maybe a 22, whatever the case is, but learn some of those fundamentals. It can be helpful, not a requirement. If you don't do this, it's not necessarily going to make you fail, but it will make things a little bit easier on you. Go Gun Affiliate, link in the description box below. I had a little bit of experience with weapons. I wasn't like a hunter or anything like that, but me and my dad would go out with just a little 22 and we would like shoot up bottles or cans or whatever kind of a thing, sometimes on the weekends out in the desert in California. And that helped me prepare a little bit because I knew at least a little bit of what to expect. Some of the people that I saw that, had never fired a weapon ever before and doing it in basic training was the first time, it was intimidating for them. They were a little bit kind of nervous. They didn't know what to expect. They didn't know what it was going to be like. And maybe that made things a little bit challenging on them. Maybe not necessarily to the point where they failed, because you do learn a lot of fundamentals in basic training, but it probably would have helped them a little bit better if they, weren't stressing it so much and being scared about what to expect rather than actually just knowing what to expect. Now, there are other basic fundamentals that will probably help you be more successful, make it a little bit easier training for the Army, so that way when you go into the Army, you know this stuff, even though you'll learn it anyways. But the basics, rank, soldier's creed, the Army values, your general orders, all those basic things are a good idea if you have time beyond all the other stuff that you're maybe doing to train for the Army. Learn those things. Then when it comes time that you have to memorize those things, maybe you already have them memorized, maybe you already know them, you're already familiarized with them. So another one that will make it easier, you're gonna learn it anyways, but if you have the extra opportunity to help you train for the Army, learning those things can make it a little bit better. Now, one last thing that I'll kind of recommend as a tip: go into basic training knowing that it's going to suck, or expecting it to just be the worst thing of your life and just suck so bad. That way, maybe you're building it up to be harder than it really is. There are definitely people that I know that said they had a fun time. They enjoyed being in basic training, they had a good time, it was fun. And there's also some people that said that it was the worst thing they ever did. You don't want to go into it with the mentality of, this is gonna be super easy, it's gonna be a cakewalk, I'm gonna breeze through this and get the hell out of there. You might have an easy time going through it, but if you go into that, basic training or into the initial training with that mentality and it's not, that's really gonna mess with you. So I personally, there was parts of it that were fun, sure. There's parts that I had, enjoyment of, or things that were like, made some good stories, but then there's also parts that really sucked and I hated, and it made it kind of dreadful, and you just were counting the days until you were done and out of there and at a regular unit and done with your initial training. It's best just to go into it with these crazy expectations that it's gonna suckerier than, that's not a word. It's gonna be worse than anything you've ever experienced before. And if it turns out to be not as bad as you built it up to be, that's pretty good, rather than you building it up to be super easy and it being harder than you built it up to be. Now, perhaps I piqued your interest with talking about, the weight of the rucksack and how much soldiers commonly carry in the rucksack. Maybe now you want to know, what else do soldiers carry? Well, I have a video right here that talks about the Common Army loadout. If you haven't seen it, maybe check it out. If you want to check out my latest upload because you haven't seen that one either, check that out right there. Links in the description box for social media, all sorts of fun things down there. I'm Christopher Chaos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya.